You're listening to Elevate, the official podcast of Elite Agent magazine for real estate industry sales professionals, property managers, and leaders. Each episode, we bring you behind-the-scenes coaching, news analysis, exclusive interviews, technology, and more to help you list more, sell more, and elevate your results. To subscribe to the magazine, visit eliteagent.com.au/subscribe. Here is your host, Samantha McLean.
Hey, Samantha McLean from Elite Agent Magazine, this week with a special edition of our podcast. My guest this week is Steve Carroll from realestate.com.au. Right now he's over in San Francisco at the Inman Connect conference, and he's also visited Facebook and LinkedIn at the same time. So we're going to get a bit of behind the scenes from Steve on what's going on over there in real estate in Silicon Valley. So welcome back to the podcast, Steve Carroll.
Hi Sam, how are you?
Fantastic, and it's looking like a lovely sunny day there in San Francisco.
It's a beautiful day in San Francisco. The mist will start rolling in. In fact, you probably can't pick it up now, but the mist is already starting to roll in. And the actual conference is at the Hilton in San Francisco, and it has a rooftop bar. And seriously, by 6 o'clock from the rooftop bar, you can't see anything. So it's very eerie. Reminds me of the north of England, actually, on a winter's day.
Yeah, a bit like, Mull of Kintyre.
Absolutely.
And then rolling in from the sea. So you've been touring Silicon Valley. So the reason they hold the Inman conference, the big real estate conference over in San Francisco, is because it's very technology focused and in close proximity to Silicon Valley. And let's say you've been to Facebook, you've been to LinkedIn, you've spent a day or two at Inman. Tell us some of the things that you've learned. Maybe let's kick off with something like Facebook. What was that like to walk into?
Well, quite incredible, because I'd actually been to Facebook before, but not actually got inside the campus. So when you actually get inside the campus at Facebook, it is like a town. It's like a sort of town that you would find in the south of France. It actually has streets. There are doctors, there are dentists, there are hairdressers, there are restaurants, there are cafes. And what they try and create at Facebook in the Silicon Valley is they try and create a community where people literally feel as though they're living within a town. And the reason they have doctors and dentists at hand is they just don't want people to leave. So when people arrive to work, they arrive to work on a Facebook bus. So Facebook lay on buses for their staff, and the lady who spent her time with us a few mornings ago was saying that she commutes for 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night. But when you get on the Facebook bus, there's full Wi-Fi, there's desks, there's settees. And so as soon as you get on the bus, you actually start to work. So you imagine you get picked up by a bus. Now, they're predicting that these buses will be driverless buses at some point in the very near future. So you get dropped off by your bus, you walk into a small town, and that's basically where you work for 9-10 hours. And one of the things they try and create at Facebook is they try and create an environment where you just don't want to go home. You actually want to stay and work, and all your food's laid out on, all your coffee's laid on. As I say, you can go and have your hair done on a Friday afternoon, or you can whatever takes your fancy. Quite incredible. Now, the challenge you've got of getting into Facebook, from what I can see, you probably go through at least 3 or 4 interviews. And each of those interviews are attended by at least 2 or 3 managers. And so you've got to convince at least 10 to 12 people that you're worthy of working at Facebook. So not the easiest place to get in, but once you're in, what a fabulous opportunity.
Yeah, and what about LinkedIn? What was that like?
Yeah, well, we went to LinkedIn this morning, in fact, and LinkedIn is a smaller version of Facebook. So again, they really try and focus on the culture. They really focus on trying to create a community where people just want to work. And I think one of the things you've got to remember, Sam, is in the Bay, here in San Francisco, there's such competition for talent. So if you don't look after your talent, then you know that they could easily be swayed to go and work at one of the other established tech companies or one of the startups. So employers have to work extremely hard to keep their staff engaged. It's really interesting because when I was talking to the lady from Facebook, and there was absolutely zero arrogance in this at all. There was zero arrogance when she said this. And she looked at me and she said that there's 13 to 15,000 people working here in this campus in San Francisco. And we believe we've probably got some of the smartest people that are actually alive working here today. There's that much confidence about what they do.
I suppose they're not going to give away any trade secrets or anything like that to you, but did you get a vibe of where they're going in the future?
Well, the one thing that I learned at Facebook, apart from the culture and it's just a different world, is they clearly have an interest in verticals. So the company in America is structured in verticals. And I think the lady who was showing us around said there was about a dozen verticals. So there's a vertical which is obviously a real estate vertical. There's a motors vertical. There's an insurance vertical. There's a retail vertical. And so if you look at the real estate vertical, you know, they've got people who work within that vertical whose job it is to grow the amount of revenue that they get from real estate agents. So that was obviously a big takeaway as far as the structure is concerned, Sam.
What about Inman itself? So I think yesterday was like the first, like they have the Tech Connect day, which is like the free day for everyone, and then they have day one of the conference, which was yesterday. So what were some of the things that were really coming out of the conference? Yeah,
well, I mean, I made a list of probably about 25 learnings. I've narrowed that down to probably 5 or 6 for this podcast, this interview, Sam. I think the one big thing for me was you'd go to these events 2 or 3 years ago, and people would talk about the fact that robots were coming, AI was coming. This conference is different. You've got speakers saying, this is how we're using robotic technology in our business. This is how we're using artificial intelligence in our business. And so in the space of sort of 36 months, it's gone from the future will be robots and AI to AI and robots is here. And just to give you a flavor, there was a speaker yesterday who was talking about how they use robots. Now picture this, robots that are 3 feet tall that show people round homes. So open for inspections, where you're shown round a home by a robot. So you ask the robot questions, and with artificial intelligence gives the answer. Now, if you think that's weird, it gets weirder in that you actually unlock the door to the home that you're inspecting through an app that's on your phone. So obviously what you do is you get to the front door, you connect with the agent, and you basically say to the agent, I'm here. The app will obviously verify that you're not a criminal, that you are who you said you are. And once you've passed all the tests, the phone opens the front door and you walk in. And you think about it, there's you, your partner, and a 3-foot robot. And if the property is on 2 floors, when you go up the stairs, robots can't climb stairs at the moment. You're greeted by another robot at the top. Now, the interesting thing, Sam, this is how it's going to be. This is how it is now with certain real estate groups in the United States. Incredible. So for me, that was a huge takeaway.
I'm just trying to think of a robot showing me around a house. It would just be almost completely freaky. But I did hear of one real estate agent here, I think it was last year, that was doing remote opens on an iPad, a bit like there was this episode of The Good Wife where you could remote work, but there would be an iPad on a robot stand that would just kind of trail around after you. So it was almost like the person is there with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, we're going to get. I was talking to someone today who was saying robots will be replaced by AI at some point. So, if for example you go around Alcatraz. Here you put your headphones on, you tune into the language that you want to listen to, and so what this gentleman was saying to me today was robots in effect will be replaced by artificial intelligence, and you'll walk into the home again. You'll let yourself in. You'll put some form of headphones on, and then you'll just get a tour of the property. Now, when you think about it, it makes complete sense because that's how you'd go around Buckingham Palace, or that's how you'd go around Alcatraz. And as the big moment of truth to me, Sam, is this is now happening. We also listened to an agent who talked about virtual assistants, and we've been having a bit of fun, or I've been having a bit of fun at my presentations at ARIC and Momentum around Jarvis. But Jarvis actually does exist, and again, I was talking to somebody today who has got a virtual assistant called Rosie, and Rosie will actually make contact with potential sellers through email and start to build up a relationship. And again, through artificial intelligence and machine learning, can pick up on the conversation, and a two-way conversation actually occurs. And in the signature on the email, it does actually say Rosie in brackets, I am a robot, close brackets. And this businessman was saying to me that so often sellers or would-be sellers come to their physical office, and the number one member of staff they want to meet is Rosie, but Rosie doesn't exist. And again, the big wake-up call for me was only 18 months ago, we were talking about virtual assistants. Virtual assistants are now being used by forward-thinking real estate groups.
Just a minute ago, you were sort of saying that people let themselves into open homes and that the app verifies that they're not a criminal. How do they manage to tap into the fact that this person is who they say they are and it's okay to let this person into the house to inspect?
Well, I'm kind of guessing that you still need to make an appointment to visit the home at 4:00 with a human being. And yeah. I'm kind of guessing the human being will text you a number, and you simply plug that number in when you verify. So, I mean, obviously, a lot of measures have been taken to ensure that someone doesn't go into the property and wrecks the place. But what I also understand is the robot actually has a camera. So, if suddenly you decided to set the place on fire and you managed to get through all the security checks, then I think you'll find within minutes the agent or some form of technology would have contacted 000.
Yeah, it sort of sounds like the future is like there'll be some sort of mission control, I think, because, what you're describing there, I remember in the years that I worked for Cisco, we had this thing set up called an iHome, and everything was wired up to the internet, like cameras, kettles, everything was wired up to the internet, and you could see exactly what was going on at every point in the house, from the garage basically, or from anywhere offsite that you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, having said that, Sam, one of the big things, and I call it the human factor. One of the big things that I've learned over the last 2 or 3 days is technology. Is not going to replace the human factor, and the best agents and the best business owners are looking for ways where technology will take away menial tasks, which will put property managers and agents, will give property managers and agents more time to speak, to prospect, and so on and so forth. So I think one of the clear messages that I've got is we're not going to be taken over by robots and technology and AI. Robots, technology, and artificial intelligence are being invested in to take away tasks that humans currently do, to free up time for humans to do what they're really good at, and that's obviously prospecting, looking for leads, and having good conversations.
What about the little guy sitting next to me? I'm not sure. We're about to do a bit of a transform session on innovation and technology, so I've brought my virtual assistant in, Alexa, who's probably listening into this conversation. So what's happening on the voice side of AI?
Well, voice has been, I actually haven't heard a lot of speakers talk about voice, and that's probably because I've just missed those sessions, because there's that many sessions happening at Inman. You just got to choose
where to go to, yeah,
you want to attend. But I do know for a fact that a lot of property managers are now putting Alexa or Google Home into properties. So if you've got a leaking tap, you just say, "Hey Alexa, can you let the agent know that I've got a leaking tap?" And technology just obviously takes care of the plumber coming round to sort that leaking tap. So I've definitely heard stories over the last 2 or 3 days of devices like Alexa being used by forward-thinking property managers to do exactly what I've just said. I think the interesting thing is, I mean, we've got Alexa at our house back in Brisbane. How long before you just literally say, "Alexa, can you tell me who the best agent is in Indooroopilly? Alexa, can you tell me which open for inspections I should go to this Saturday, based on the fact that my budget's 800,000 and I'm looking for a three bedroom home?" You can see that occurring. So, how is that going to change the behaviour of people who currently search for that information through an iPad or a phone? I don't know the answer to that, but obviously something we need to be aware of.
What are, let's say 3 things that you think every agent needs to know now?
Well, one is, I mean, obviously we've talked about robots, we've talked about AI, and my advice to all real estate principals and agents, just get on that page and start learning and reading up. And a first step would be to buy an Alexa, Amazon Echo, $70, and just play around with it and just start self-educating yourself. 3 or 4 other big takeouts. Apparently, there's the biggest contingent of Australian real estate professionals at Inman than they've seen ever before. So this was a quote from a number of people. And when I've inquired why there are more business people from Australia or real estate professionals from Australia in America right now, one of the top answers is, we live in a complex world. And to actually navigate through this complex world, you've got to build partnerships. You can't do it alone. You've got to jump in bed with other partners to obviously tap into their knowledge. So I think why there's a big contingent of Australian business owners and businesses here right at this moment in time is they're looking for partners to partnership with to navigate through the complex business world that we're living in. Data is, as you would have guessed, a huge topic of conversation, but it's not so much about, the importance of data. It's about how do you clean the data to make it really workable. So how do you have a database where you actually put data into different buckets depending on the type of person that is there, and how do you use technology to actually clean up those buckets and get rid of duplication and actually float the warmer, the hotter prospects to the top of the funnel. So big discussions about that. And just a couple of other things that were big pickups for me. One was, we are living in a world of entrepreneurs, and where there's entrepreneurs, there's disruption, and just get used to it. So anybody who wants the world to slow down or to stand still, you just forget it, because it's going to change every quarter. It's going to be different. And I think that as business people, we've just got to get agile and train our brains to understand that is the world that we live in. And, just on that, for example, I was talking to a manager today at LinkedIn. He was telling me in the last 18 months, 80% of his staff have left. 80%. And he said, it's not because I'm a bad manager. He said, we just live in a transient world where people are just looking for different opportunities. And he said, here at LinkedIn, we just accept that if you have somebody for 15 months, 16 months, then you're doing pretty well. The last thing that, I've picked up, and it's really confirmed what I've talked about at Momentum, I talked about at Eric recently, that is personalization is absolutely critical. So, we hear the word concierge being thrown around a lot, taking a customer on a journey that is based on brilliant customer service. And everywhere I look, I just see businesses trying to work out how they can offer the very, very best personalized service. So for all real estate agents out there, if you're operating on a gold, silver, bronze package, forget it. You've got to move on, and you've got to work out how you can offer a tailored, bespoke, personalized package for every single customer, because that seems to be the way the world's moving. So that's probably a bit of a flavour of what I've picked up.
Yeah, super, super, super interesting. Well, I can't wait to catch up with you for more of that when you get back to Australia, whether it be in Sydney or somewhere else. Have a safe and wonderful trip back. Thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
That's great, Sam. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully I'll see some of your audience at Digital Live, a course which kicks off in August.
To subscribe to the magazine, visit eliteagent.com.au/subscribe.